Today we got a special guest. We got independent local wrestler from San Diego, one of my favorites, Mike Camden, also known as the Numero Uno. We're going to get to know him a little bit, see who he is, and I'm going to ask him what does he think about today's wrestling. And then after that, me and Nico will be talking about AEW. So sit back, relax, and get a cold one. Welcome to the Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up. 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 Get up, get up.
Hello, everybody. This is Jay right here. I'm having my very first special guest, Mike Camden, El Numero Uno. Thank you, Mike, for coming here today.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
I want to say this is an honor having you here. I've been a big fan since I've been coming to the Level Up showcases.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I appreciate it,
So-
man. Thank you for having me.
Sure. So let's talk about you a little bit. What got you into wrestling? Like, who were your influence, and what made you decide this is what I want to do?
Influences, watching wrestling when I was a kid, like my first memories were like Junkyard Dog, stuff, and guys like that. I don't know, I just liked wrestling. I liked watching it. And I was at that time period when I was a kid when, it really got, put out there that it was, obviously not a real fight. It's a scripted.
Yeah.
And a lot of kids that I watched wrestling with started, not liking it. And they'd be like, oh, it's fake. And it's like, yeah, but I still like watching it.
Yeah.
So, I'd watch, I'd kind of just secretly watch it by myself. And, I loved watching Bret Hart. He was a big influence for me when I was a kid. And then eventually the Attitude Era came along, and I was in high school by that time.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody jumped on the bandwagon. So,
Yeah, of
big-
course, everybody, even myself, I jumped into the Attitude Era.
yeah.
Anybody could have said the same thing.
Yeah, and then I was a big Stone Cold Steve Austin guy, and actually that whole roster of guys back then, even the mid card guys could have been the top talent today. They were just, those mid card guys were just in such a talented roster that it just was that different. It's crazy, man, to think about. You go back and watch the old Attitude Era, and you just see my boy Gangrel and Val Venus and D'Lo, how good they were, but yet they were there with Taker, Stone Cold, The Rock, and it was just crazy, man. It was just filled with talent back then.
So you already got hooked. When at some point in your life you decided, this is what I want to do?
Well, when I was 21, I was living with a bunch of my friends from high school up by San Diego State, and another one of my friends mentioned that there's wrestling schools. I had no idea how to get into wrestling, how that whole process was. And there was a school up in San Bernardino called Empire Wrestling Federation, EWF. And I went up there and started training, and did it for about 4 months, and I just kind of fell out of it. It was a far drive, and maybe I just wasn't mature enough to stick with it at that time. And, stopped wrestling and went on about my life. And I think it was around about 29. I just, I thought man, I want to try this wrestling thing again, just because I'm about to be 30, and I want to do it before I get too old, obviously.
Of course.
And I'm not able to physically. And found out about SoCal Pro, went up to SoCal Pro, started training, and 3 months later debuted. And actually this month, October, will be my 7th year as a wrestler. So
Cool. So once you started getting back to the wrestling, did you do other wrestling promotions other than SoCal?
My first year, I kind of just stuck with SoCal Pro.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to make sure I was ready before I went out to any other promotion. I don't know, they say work everywhere you can, but I just wanted to represent my training, my trainers well before I went out to anywhere else. And then finally, the opportunity started coming to, go wrestle outside of SoCal Pro, and I got to a few bookings, and yeah, so.
Was the traveling hard for you when you were booked at other locations?
No, not at first, because it was more still Southern California bookings. Like the hardest drive was EWF. I'd go wrestle for them a couple times, and that driving up there would take like 3 hours, and it's like 3 hours of traffic. Coming home would be like 2 hours, but on the way there it was a nightmare. So that was about the hardest. So the commute didn't bother me at all. It's not until I started wrestling in Arizona. That's a long drive, man. That's a long day. And other places where, obviously the drive is 6 hours, 8 hours, stuff like that.
Of course. Was there any point to this when you're doing all this independent, you wanted to go to a major promotion or just stick with the independents? No, I don't know, man. It's kind of just the growth, where you think like, okay, I'm ready to try the next level. Mm-hmm. And by that, you just have to put your name out there. If you see a tryout, go do a tryout. If you have an email to somebody. That's kind of, I got a WWE tryout because I was just emailing. Mm-hmm. Nobody got me it. I got it myself because I just kept emailing. Like guys from WWE. Of course.
And I would send them video. I would say, hey, if any opportunities ever arrive for extra work, anything like that, tryout opportunities, please hit me up. I'd also send them videos and be like, if you could get a chance, watch this and maybe give me a little bit of feedback. And you'd be surprised they do. It's crazy. And I always tell newer students, there are guys in the WWE that are paid and their job is to find new talent. So be that new talent that is raising their hand in the crowd saying, look at me over here, because that's what it is. It's a big crowd of people all trying to get noticed. And you should be the person running up to the front with your hand raised saying, I'm right here, look at me. Has
WWE ever got back to you, or are you just like, I tried it out, let's see what happens? Or
I think when I did my tryout was in February of 2018 in Orlando. And it's a long story. If we had more time, I would explain.
Make it short if you can.
I didn't get cleared medically to try out. I had an incident back in 2005 where my jugular vein got sliced. And when I got there, you have they make you do a little medical questionnaire and surgery. So I put that down as a surgery. And the doctor on site asked me about it, and I'm like, yeah, I went back, I'm fine. He's like, okay, cool. Put like a stethoscope up to me, and he's like, all right, you're cool. Boom, sign me off. Next day I arrive, and we're about to start, and I get called into the trainer's room, and the doctor's like, do you have any paperwork for that injury? And I'm like, no, that was like 13 years ago. And he goes, I can't allow you to train or try out until you get cleared by a cardiovascular specialist. So that was heavy. And then he was, the doctor was like, oh, just hang out, talk to people, maybe we'll get invited back out. And my mindset was like, no, I'm here right now. I'm gonna get in that ring. So right when I stopped, right when our conversation finished, we actually had to go do the promo session. So I was allowed to do promo. And then as soon as that was done, I jumped on my phone and looked up Orlando cardiovascular specialist and got an appointment. I'm not gonna lie, man, I was crying like crazy. There was a lot of emotions going on. A lot of hurdles got put in front of me that I had to get over. But eventually, by the last day, I was in the ring, trying out, doing the drills, and then I was fortunate enough to get a match. And then, so I haven't heard anything back from them. I've contacted them, but I'm also not really that worried about it because of where the wrestling scene is right now. There's so many other opportunities, whether it be Impact, MLW, ROH, AEW. and just independent wrestling alone is doing very well. So am I worried about just going to one place? No.
So, what are your current goals right now in your position?
The current goal would basically kind of be like just get onto the next level. Maybe try and work for an MLW, an ROH, something like that, Impact. Maybe try and work out in Chicago a little bit more. Chicago's got a great scene going on.
Of course.
Crash, I would love to try and jump on the Crash. I'd like to do Hood Slam too. Hood Slam looks like a wild scene and a lot of fun. So I'd like to try and do that too. So we'll see what happens. I just went and did a New Japan tryout on Monday, and that went really well. I think that it was up at the LA Dojo. And
were you attending like their tryout, or was it just something else?
To tell you the truth, it was a tryout. What was the tryout for? I'm not 100% sure. But it was a chance to get in front of Shibata, Gato, Rocky Romero, the higher ups in New Japan, and it was worth it.
Nice.
It went well for me. I was ready. From what the other guys that I saw there, I believe I'm at the top. From the other, I think there was probably about 30 guys there, and if I had to rank myself just off of seeing them and then knowing kind of how I am, I was in the top 5% of guys there. So that's just how I feel. But I don't. It's not cockiness. It's confidence. I've tried to be that next level of wrestler, not just a guy that blends in.
Mm-hmm.
I want something special to stand out about me, and that's what I showed there. So.
All right. So hope I get to see you somewhere.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, Rocky was really cool. He gave me some feedback, and said I should try and get back up there and train with them and stay in contact and stuff like that. So that's cool,
All right.
But I'm 37, man.
Yeah.
Like every all these like little like tryouts and all opportunities, I look at them as just like memories, man. I got into wrestling just to have one match, just to say at least I was a professional wrestler. I did for one night, right? And everything since that has just been icing on the cake. Getting the opportunity to go other places and wrestle in front of people, meet people that I was fans of when I was a kid, and I've come to terms with my age being probably like the thing that sticks out the most when these higher promotions look at me. And hey, it is what it is, man.
All right.
Can't fix that.
No.
Can't fix age, right?
No, I mean, you look good for someone your age.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Even though you are having a time of your life,
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, you get your highs and lows.
Of course.
Highs and lows in professional wrestling. So.
All right. So, we just got to know Mike a little bit, but we'll be back to talk to Mike. What does he think about today's wrestling scene, independents, and the major promotions? So, here's a little clip I'm going to throw in for all of you, the real clips of him at the showcase that I have attended. So, we'll be right back.
死ぬまで憧れの中で生き続けるのかな。僕らは夢のかけらもちより熱くなれるほどちっぽけで無力な最強のドリーマー、最強のドリーマー。ファーストフィンガー天を指させ、ファーストフィンガー高く強く、ファーストフィンガー僕らはもう、ファーストフィンガー一人じゃない、yeah。僕らは手にした大事な何かをあといくつなくしていくのだろう。つまりはなくした分だけどうやら強くなれるのが人間らしい。僕らがもし神の子ならば、あの時あんな悲しい涙は流してないよ、流すわけないよ。ファーストフィンガー。
All right, Mike, since I first started watching you, became a fan, and of course I'm wearing his shirt.
Appreciate it. ProWrestlingTees.com.
So, you've been mostly involved with the level up stuff.
Yeah.
So, how'd you get involved in that?
So the first 5 years of wrestling for me, I was at SoCal Pro, and my trainers were Tommy Wilson, SoCal Crazy, and a tag team named Anchors Away. So those were my trainers, and in that time frame, they kind of retired, moved out of the area, so they weren't there, and I was kind of looking for new training, just somewhere else to get a new look new perspective of wrestling. So I hit up Benny. Benny had just opened up the Level Up wrestling school, and I hit him up and went there for one session, and it's like, all right, excellent. This is fun. It was something new that he was showing me, and so yeah, I started just showing up there and training there, and Benny asked me if I would help out with the newer guys, and I was like, yeah, of course I will. And yeah, so I've been there for probably almost a year now.
Since it opened up?
Yeah, kind of.
If you guys know who Benny is, I always mention his name. Is B-Boy.
B-Boy.
SoCal legend. So, what do you do when you teach these younger kids, like, what do you teach them when they're in the ring? Or what to expect when they're in the ring?
I guess the few things that I try to push towards the newer guys, even maybe even like the guys that are about 2 or 3 years in, like Hops and Juan J2,
Of course.
even Hunter, is be comfortable calling it in the ring. Not everything has to be planned out before the match. You have to be able to, because shit might go to hell, okay, and it has happened to me plenty of times. Something's just gone wrong, and you have to be able to go with it, and just call it in the ring, and so that's one of the biggest things I try to preach towards the younger guys is, especially with these Level Up shows that we're having, the showcase shows, is experiment.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid to try something new, because if it shits the bed, that's fine. It's in front of a handful of people, But if it's good, and let's say you react to it, the rest of the people that are at these showcase shows react to it. If the boys react to it and they think it's good, keep it. But if it didn't go over well, scrap it. You tried it didn't work. Experiment, man. Experiment. That's the biggest thing. A lot of these people go out and they just have. D'Lo actually taught me this. They go out there with this script, and they don't go. They can't stray from the script at all. They can't stray from it. But that's the great thing about wrestling, and that's when the real good stuff happens. Is when you do just react in the moment. When you're sticking to a script, you don't think about other things, reacting to the crowd, listening to the crowd, building up something, reacting to what's happening in the moment. You're on a script. But when you don't have a script, you can react to what's happening in the moment. And that's one thing D'Lo taught me. And so that's something I try and do with the kids. I'll go in there, and we might have the back portion of the match planned out, but in the front, I'll be like, I'll just call it to you out there. I'll just, just listen to me. And my job is, man, I try to make these kids look good. I try to make them look good. I try to make them feel like, wow, that did go a lot better than I expected.
Yeah.
Because I remember the first time that happened to me was with a guy named Brandon Gatson, who is been around for a long time. He's a fantastic wrestler. And I was wrestling him at SoCal Pro, and we had the back half figured out, and we had the front portion. He was like, just listen to me out there. And I was kind of like freaking out. I was like, what? and that was the first time in the ring I was like, wow, this guy is really good. He knows what he's doing. And so I was like, I got to get on that level. And also my trainer, Tommy Wilson, was kind of the same way. Is I'll just call it in the ring, just listen to me. And he was one of the best performers, I'll say that, performers in the ring in Southern California for the time that he was wrestling. And so that's what I try to preach to these kids.
When every time I see you at the showcase, you're always like I always wondered, what is like your role when you're in the ring, when you're facing the younger guys in the showcase?
Obviously the heel role is easier for me to control the match.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to test these kids to see if they can get a reaction off of something
Mm-hmm.
little. A lot of the newer guys, they think they have to go straight from day one to locking up,
Yeah.
to they have to do a flip, they have to do some kind of crazy high spot, stuff like that. And it's like, no, man, just work an arm, work ahead, sell, stuff like that. It's almost like doing math.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't go into math just doing like algebra, right? You learn your subtraction and addition, and then you move on to multiplication, then division, and then whatever. I'm horrible at math, so I couldn't go anything further than that. But you don't just jump in and go, oh, I learned how to add, now I'm going to do algebra, right? You do the smaller stuff first, and then you work your way up, and that's the thing. A lot of schools, or I don't know a lot of schools, but a lot of kids, they think they got to go straight into those high spots, the flips, the crazy moves, the dives, all that kind of stuff. And it's more like, no, just, have a good foundation, a good base. That's what I've kind of started leaning more towards. Because I'm not going to lie, I kind of jumped on that same thing when I first started training. I was like, oh, you got to do crazy, high-flying stuff. And then I started getting hurt. And I was like, well, maybe I need to back this up a little bit and figure out something else. And that's what I've been kind of working on. I don't do too many crazy things anymore. I mean, I might do a moonsault off the second rope every once in a while, and that's about it. But that's my role. Is I try to show these kids a little bit more.
Basically,
than doing high spots.
You're giving them the test.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe I don't know if I'm too much of a test. I want them to go away being like, oh, it doesn't have to be all pre-planned.
Yeah.
You can kind of feel it out in the ring, So.
Since I know you trained, do you ever use any of the training methods that you've done with these new kids? Or
Yeah, man. My one thing is when you're starting, when you finally kind of get to that point where you're allowed to go into the ring, bump. Learn how to bump and bump as much as possible. That way you become very good at it. Yeah. Because a lot of these kids, the more you do it, the easier it's going to be. One of the best compliments I ever had was actually from Gangrel, where he was like, "You take a snap bump really well," and it's like, I appreciate that, thank you. I don't know how many people get that compliment, but yeah, I mean that when I first started training, it was all about bumping and hitting the ropes. Bumping, rolling, bumping, and that's something I tried to, bring to these kids, like clotheslines, back elbows, shoulder tackles, all that kind of stuff, and doing a lot of them.
So, do you see any good potential students at this point that they're getting the work done, they're following your every instruction?
Yeah, of course. There's always the guys that kind of stand out, and there's always going to be that person that catches on faster. Mm-hmm. And then there's those guys that's going to take longer. But that's fine. Those guys I respect because if they keep showing back up, that means they really want it. Mm-hmm. Taking a case in point, SoCal Pro had this kid named Alex. Mm-hmm. And Alex is not... And if he sees this is... how much I love you. He's not very athletic. He's like he makes video games, so he kind of looks like a video game nerd. But he just every day he would show up or every night he would show up and just kind of get his ass kicked, but he stuck with it. And we're talking like 2 years in, he had not debuted, but he stuck with it, and he won me over, and eventually he finally did debut. And when I remember he was very excited, like real happiness when he finally got to debut. And his name was Snake. He'd come out in a commando gear kind of stuff. But he wrestled for a little bit, but now he's a ref, and he's becoming a really good ref too. So it's one of those incidents where it's a guy that didn't have the athletic background, but he stuck with it, man. And that's really what I appreciate. And then you got guys like at Level Up, there's Rey Mysterio's kids training with us, and he does a very good job. And he's very humble. He listens to what you say, and he does what you ask him to do. And there's no attitude out of that kid. Obviously he's he's got a very. Some people have a harder path than others. He's not going to have a terribly hard path getting noticed. Does that sound like okay? Yeah. He's not going to have a hard path getting noticed, getting bookings, getting opportunities. There's other guys that are living it, and they have a hard time getting the opportunities. But Dom, you know, he's going to have that fast track, but he's being very humble about it. He's not arrogant at all. He's doing the work, and he's a nice kid. It's cool, you know. Every once in a while, Ray will show up, Conan will show up, and train. Ray Phoenix will show up and train. It's real cool, man. It's a cool environment, and you know, I'm sure he's gonna do a great job when he finally does debut and gets to the level he needs to be.
I want to ask you about Dom, you know, because I know he's been training at the level up. Does he actually really put the work in? Like he actually listens to everyone. I mean, to you, to Benny, and everybody else. Yeah. I get in there and I'll just call a match. I'll just call a match to him and say, "Let's go, get in here," and we'll lock up and I'll just start calling. And we're trying to find what works for him. He doesn't have the same body type as his father, of course.
And you know, his dad was athletic as can be, man. Of course. And this is just my opinion. He shouldn't try and follow that path because I don't think he'll ever be able to do what his dad did because just body type alone, he doesn't have that body type. But he can be. He should try and find his own path, his own character, his own moveset. You know, and he can hit a 619. Cool, do that. A little bit of tribute to his father,
of course.
But I mean, as far as the other stuff, like his dad's crazy. You know, it's crazy the stuff that he's done. So, yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where he's a great guy. He listens. He takes advice. He's asking questions, and it's so funny because like he'll ask me questions, and I'm like, dude, you have one of the greatest resources as a father, and you're asking me this question? Like, I don't know, man. Like, I'll answer it, and then I'll be like, by the way, can you tell your dad my answer? And if he says it's bullshit, then tell me so I can never tell anybody again. But he says his dad, he talks to his dad about the training, and that his dad has never once said that we're giving him bad advice. So, that's cool. You know, considering that Benny, myself, Hunter, and everybody else there is kind of got the a good idea of what's going on.
Has Ray ever come up to you and ask you how's he progressing?
No, but I haven't been there as much as other people have. Like Benny, I know Benny will kind of talk to Ray about how everything's going. So yeah, I haven't been there as much as Ray, as anybody else when Ray's there. I've been there like once or twice, and yeah,
All right. So do you want to give a little info of the Level Up Pro Wrestling School to everybody?
Yeah, here's my my knowledge of information. Go to the website, Level Up Pro Wrestling. I think that's what it is. Or Facebook, Level Up Pro Wrestling. I don't know the address. It's off Elgin Boulevard.
I'll try to set up a link down below for everyone.
There's your information.
So we'll be back with the last thing with Mike that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about today's wrestling.
Yeah, there you go.
Mike, last thing I want to talk about is today's wrestling. I've been a fan of wrestling since I was a kid, watching the old school WWE, time the Hulk Hogan, then the Bret Hart, Stone Cold, and of course watching Mexican wrestling, all this other stuff. And of course, over the years I started listening about the independent scenes, What I want to ask, what do you think about today's wrestling? What's been happening?
Well, I'm wrestling to me was all WWE, WWF, WCW. I didn't know anything about the independents either when I was younger. So I couldn't tell you comparison from myself, seeing it to where it is now. But from what I've heard, this is basically the best time to be in professional wrestling, independent wrestling. It's hot. It's hot right now. So I'm very fortunate that I started in 2013, and it seemed like right then there was just a lot of stuff happening. especially, and then just these past couple years with AEW showing up. Impact seems to be getting better as far as production value and steady. They're kind of like, ROH is doing some good stuff. There's just a lot of good stuff going on with wrestling right now. MLW is killing it, man. Like, that's
caught my attention.
Yes, that's one of those promotions where it's like, whoa, what's going on here? They're bringing in a lot of guys, and one of them is my boy Hammerstone. I'm good friends with him, and I remember talking to him. Him and I used to wrestle up at WCWC together up in Portland, Oregon, and I'm really happy for him because he was down for a while. As far as a lot of these guys, they think like WWE's that's it. Yeah. That's the answer. Like that's the only place to go. And Hammer was kind of, I feel like he was getting kind of tugged. Yeah, no, maybe, not right now, yes, no, kind of. And it was kind of like messing with him, I think. And one time we were sitting at dinner and he was just like, yeah, they said no, not right now. And I just go, that's fine, man. Like, that's the best news they've given you. Like, focus on something else. Do something else. And then a few months later, I found out about the MLW thing, and he's doing great there, man. Like, it's just a great spot for him to be at right now. And they just sent him over to Japan for Noah, and he did a great job over there. And I can see there's a new passion in him. And not that he ever lost it, but he's happy.
Of course.
And that's a great thing. And that's just one example of a guy that, everybody thought WWE was the final destination. Mm-hmm. And nowadays, it's not. Sometimes, or nowadays, people are saying, I don't want to go to WWE. I want to be more in control of my career. So they had the opportunity to go to an MLW, ROH, maybe go over to Japan, go to Mexico. It's great, man.
I was following not too long ago about Joey Ryan. You probably heard of him, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember how not too long ago AEW and WWE had their sights on Joey Ryan.
Yeah.
And then he made the decision that he wanted to be true to himself, that he'd rather stay independent because he felt that the independence is still going strong. Do you believe that it's still going strong?
Yes, 100%. There's a really great independent scene going on. There's shows every weekend. Just in California, Southern California, there's an insane amount of promotions happening. And just in San Diego, we have multiple promotions. We have SoCal Pro, Ground Zero, Fist, and Baja Stars. That's 4 promotions just in San Diego.
Of course.
And then if you add on, Ground Zero does level up shows on Sundays for the younger guys. It's a good thing going on. And then we just had a Lucha Expo right across the street here.
Yeah, I know. I missed that one. I know you.
It was an awesome event. It was really cool. So I got to do a show, or I got to do one of the matches, and it was great. It was a really fun time. I appreciate it.
So can you explain a little bit more about the expo that happened not too long ago?
It was just it was an expo. A lot of wrestling, a lot of wrestling merchandise, and other kind of stuff, and it was fun. I wish it. I feel like it could have been a little bit bigger. Mm-hmm. I feel like the promotion for it could have been a little bit better, to get more eyes. And because I feel like it was only basically done on social media, and but it was fun. I enjoyed it. I was there. I read LA Lucha. Actually, I don't know if you know the wrestling guy. His name's David Gomez. He has a wrestling guy store up in LA. He also does a podcast. He helped me get on with LA Lucha, so I did their match. It was myself, Daniel Moon, and Hunter Freeman against Adrian Quest, a gentleman from Tennessee, I believe, named Fuego del Sol.
Oh, yeah.
And
I know Fuego.
Yeah, and Arrow Boy. It was cool, man. We had a nice little match. It was fun, But it was cool. It was cool seeing that kind of event happening in San Diego.
Do you think that the wrestling scene here in San Diego should do more of that stuff in the expos?
Yeah, it was great. Because I went to WrestleCade last year, and that was in North Carolina. WCWC sent me out there to go wrestle for them, and that was huge. It was a huge event, but that was also, that's not the first time they did it. They've had a few of those. So I think it can keep growing, especially in Southern California where Lucha is such a influence on the wrestling scene. I think it's something, a Lucha Expo would it could grow and get better.
So I know you participate or get booked out at the Ground Zero events. Can you explain a little bit how's the intensity there, like the crowd is when you do those? So people who are here in San Diego don't know about this promotion, but if they want to go, what do you expect them to see? Like,
there's a lot of good independent wrestling happening on that show. It also brought good competition for the rest of the promotions in San Diego. And that's good because it's just like WWE and AEW. WWE has to up their game now that AEW's on the scene. It's the same thing on the local scene. SoCal Pro and Ground Zero kind of have to compete now. And I'm not saying it's bad competition. I'm saying it's good competition. You know, it might just be something like presentation wise. Benny and Ground Zero started having a lighting rig around the ring, and now you look at SoCal Pro and they're doing the exact same thing. So production and presentation is being upped. But you know, as far as wrestling wise, it's kind of two different worlds. SoCal Pro is very storyline driven. You're not going to see as much like just one-off exhibition matches, I believe. Whereas Ground Zero is kind of more of that, like dream matches that in the Southern California area, and it's going to be a lot more, less storyline driven, and more just put two good wrestlers in there together and let them do what they do. And that's kind of what I'm trying to bring to Ground Zero, is a little bit more storyline driven. I just had a match there this past weekend with Ruby Reyes. I've never had a intergender match before. That was the first time, you know?
Yeah, of course.
So it's like, I didn't want to just go out there and say, hey, we're wrestling. Okay, let's go, ding, ding, ding. I wanted to build something up to it. So if we can go out there and say, she answers an open challenge, I guess you would say, and, me say, no, I don't wrestle girls. It's like, oh, well, then the crowd goes, yeah, you're, especially now, today's time, you're a dick. Like equal opportunity kind of stuff,
Of course.
So then, I was like, have her insult me and then kind of, drive me into this match to, really get mad at her, and now I really want to hurt her. So it was fun, man. It was a great time. I really enjoyed it. It was my first time wrestling a girl in a show. Obviously, I've wrestled girls in training. But it was fun, and I tried to make it make sense. It wasn't just like, I think a lot of people get lost. They just think of spots. But why are we doing these spots? If you have a big guy and a little guy, it shouldn't be equal. One guy should be strong, one guy should be a little bit weaker, but quicker, something like that. So I try to bring that into my matches, and with Reyes I tried doing that. It was fun, man. I had a great time. It was better than I thought it could be.
Yeah. So if you guys are interested to check out Ground Zero, they do have a social media. So they have an Instagram, right?
Yeah, sure.
Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. So if you guys can find it, you can follow every event they have. And I heard that you're booked for a match this coming Sunday, right?
Oh, yeah. Is this going to be out before then? So, yeah, Global Lucha. It's up in Escondido. I'll be wrestling. I'll be in a tag match with the King, Rey Mysterio.
Not the actual one.
Not Rey Mysterio Jr. The King, Rey Mysterio. Taking on Rico Dynamite and another gentleman that I'm drawing a blank on, Luchador. That's... No disrespect, I'm just drawing a blank right now.
Yeah, I heard that members from 8-Bit Lid will be there too.
Yeah, they'll be there.
Yeah, J2 and Hops.
Hops. Judy's will be there. Yeah, there's other cats there. And actually, Judiz, let's put over my boy right now. He'll be wrestling Gangrel at the next SoCal Pro Show, and I'm really happy for him. It's going to be a great experience for him. And good luck to that. Check out SoCal Pro if you get a chance. And then, yeah, man. So, and then we got the Ground Zero show coming up this month in October. I'll finally be stepping in the ring if he decides to show up. Dom Kubrick. And, yeah.
All right. Is there any chance you'll be competing for the Ground Zero Championship?
Yeah, of course, man. Why wouldn't I?
Of course. I mean, you did face the champ at the showcase.
I finally took on Andy Brown at a Level Up show, and he did not beat me. He could not beat me. How does that not put me right there in contention for that championship? He's beat up plenty of guys. Jake Atlas, Tyler Bateman. He has not beat me. We went to a disqualification.
Of course.
So, a double disqualification. We both got disqualified. So we need to settle this.
Of course. I put the video on a previous episode.
Yeah.
It was pretty interesting. I mean, I know that you waited for a long time to get your hands on him.
Yeah, man. I've been calling him out for years, and nobody puts me in the ring with him. And I think it's because he keeps ducking me.
What you should do is do a little protest.
Yeah, I'll figure it out. I got the things. I got Dom Kubrick. I'm gonna get through him first, and then I'll probably just beat up everybody else, and finally they'll say, "Yeah, you have a match with Andy Brown." If he still has that thing, I don't know. I don't care if he has the championship or not. I just want to show that I can beat him, that I am better than him, and then I'll get that championship eventually.
If you do get that match, I'll be there watching.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, so Mike Camden, everybody. So hope you guys get to see him in the future. Check this guy out. He's awesome. He'll be either at the showcase or Ground Zero, or you can follow him on his social media, either Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. So, Mike, thank you for coming here. You are, of course, our first guest, and, of course, the reason is you are El Numero Uno.
El Numero Uno. I'm probably the best luchador in San Diego. Couldn't think of another person to even step in the ring with me and out-lucha me.
All right. So that's it with Mike. We'll continue on with this episode. All right, Nico.
What is up?
This past Wednesday, we just had the start of the Wednesday Night War. AEW, NXT. What are your thoughts of AEW's first show, Dynamite?
From beginning to the end, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed every I don't want to fan out and say I enjoyed every moment of it,
Of course.
But yeah, I kind of enjoyed every moment of it.
I mean, it was like they actually kept up to what they said from the very start. I mean, they did say they're going to be an alternative promotion from WWE, and they kept their word. I mean, it was more fighting than, and don't put like the backstage stuff that we always see with WWE, which gets a little boring, and because of course irritates to many of the diehard wrestling fans, And let's talk about the first match real quick.
Yeah.
Cody versus Sammy, and that was an interesting match.
Yeah. The show made sense. Like, I was trying to wonder what was the whole point of having Sammy go against Cody, and then they tied it. They tied it with the ending of the show. What else was it? Like, it was like I'm a very critical individual. I was trying to look for stuff to like be all like, I was trying to nitpick at the show, but maybe I need to watch it one more time. But I didn't see anything that I didn't like.
Yeah. After the match, when Cody got the victory, he was attacked by Jericho. Because Jericho will defend his title at full gear against Cody. It's like, we've seen these type of things before with champions who are like the heels who will not tolerate someone to take his title.
That's right.
It's always been like that. So let's talk about the MJF versus Brandon Cutler match.
I think that was when they first introduced the turnbuckle cam.
Well, yeah.
Has anyone else done that? I'm trying to think. Is that
I know that TNA has
That's
done
brand
it.
new for me.
TNA has done it, but not in the same angle as they did.
Oh, okay.
It was more like, let's see. Let's say the camera we saw was like from here. Theirs is like right on top of it, where you can see where they get head slam, that type of thing. I seen that with TNA because first time I saw that in the Gauntlet match. The Amazing Red was involved for the X Division Championship, and I had to say this angle where you see that, that's like something new, but also very creative. You know? I'll give applaud whoever thought of that.
Yeah, I like that.
So yeah, and then we saw promos that came out. We saw Jay and Silent Bob. Mm-hmm. They're promoting their new film, and of course they mentioned Jericho being the bad guy, as he always been. And then they were interrupted by Angelico and Jack Evans. And of course, we saw the insult that they couldn't even win a match.
Right.
I thought it was classic, you know. They were getting into it, and here comes Private Party, giving them some beer.
There you go.
Yeah. And then we see another promo where you and I have talked about this before this, because next week we have the tournament of the tag team championship. Mm-hmm. We still had no clue at SCU who was going to be participating. There was 3 different combinations. It's either Scorpio or Kazarian, or it was Daniels and Kazarian because they both have experience, or the first time ever Scorp with Daniels. Mm-hmm. And of course, it was still unclear at the time who was going to be teaming up for this. And of course, Scorp made that announcement that's going to be the veterans, Daniels and Kazarian.
I thought they said Sky and...
No, he made the announcement.
Oh.
So he said that it was going to be the veterans to do it themselves, because Scorp has a good point. Those two have been together longer than he is, you know. So I have to say it'll be an interesting team up, you know, because of course they are veterans and they have been tag team champions before, in both in Impact and ROH.
The Addiction.
Yeah, and then they were interrupted by none other than the Lucha Brothers.
Oh yeah.
Who are now declaring themselves the best tag team in the universe. I mean, it's pretty cool to see that right now we're seeing the tag team division now taking it too seriously on this one. Mm-hmm. Because they made it, the Bucks made that very clear from day one. They want to give the best tag team that the wrestling world needs. And of course, they're making that happen today. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's jump in when they decided to go with the first ever women's AEW's Women's Championship. Rio versus Nyla Rose.
I like that. I really like that match. It was. I think that was like the first part of the television show where I was actually at the edge of my seat, and I was like, "Ooh, who's gonna win? Who's gonna win?" I'm a big fan of the Joshi style and women's wrestling, so I kind of popped when Rio won. So
the thing is, like, people are like looking at this match more like the David and Goliath story, but this time with women. Mm-hmm. You know, of course, don't forget, this was in Washington, D.C., where Nyla is originally from. Yeah. You know, of course, everybody would assume she'll be the fan favorite to win, but of course, Rio's popularity, her recognition is starting to grow. Mm-hmm. You know, because don't forget, she appeared at all 4 of the pay-per-views that she's been in, and of course, I mean, who doesn't love Rio? You know, she's an amazing.
Not Rose.
Yeah, no, Rio.
No, you said who doesn't love him.
But anyway, but we all know Rio was brought in by Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
You know, but seeing the winner turn out to be Rio, it was like, I think, one of the most proudest moments in her career, you know? Because people did know who she was, but once they're getting to see her, it was more, wow, like, she may be tiny, but she can hold on her own.
Yeah.
You know.
Wasn't there a run-in? Was there a run-in after she won, or is it just...
What happened is Michael Nakazawa, who is the resident Japanese of AEW, he wanted to talk to her because other than Michael, Kenny and Michael are the only 2 people who speak Japanese.
Yeah.
You know, but of course they were attacked by Nyla Rose,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah, that's what happened.
Nyla was about to take out Rio, but here comes Kenny saving the day. I was like, back in my mind, I'm like thinking, why do I get the feeling that Kenny's gonna come out?
Yeah, yeah. I kind of wanted to see someone run in for a shot at the belt, like, you know, like someone run in and be like, oh, I want to be next. Or
Well,
whatever.
I was thinking that too, because if you saw before the start of that match, Dr. Britt Baker
Yeah.
showed up. You know, because if you recall, she could have won the Casino Battle Royal at All Out, but of course it didn't happen that way. She got pulled out by B. Priestley.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I have that feeling like it's not over between those two.
Nah. I think they got real heat with each other.
Yeah. So right now we're just gotta wait and see who will be the next opponent.
Mm-hmm.
But my money's on Britt Baker. And how about you?
Ooh, there's a lot. There's a lot. There's Sadie Gibbs coming up. There's just so much that they're not showing us with the women's division.
I think they want to surprise us.
Yes.
I mean, they have been keeping that, but we'll explain that a little bit. Now, the final match, the main event, the 6-man tag team. Now, before
we already jumped there?
not yet,
Oh, okay.
but before we start,
Yeah.
we have been talking about who could have been Jericho's tag team partners.
Yes.
Now, I mentioned there were two possibilities.
Mhm.
One, the Dark Order,
Yeah.
or two, Santana Ortiz, since they made their appearance at All Out.
That's the better choice.
I wasn't sure until the countdown to AEW Dynamite.
Mhm.
It kind of revealed it right there.
Yeah.
And I was like going crazy, like I was right. I was like running around like a little kid,
Okay.
you know. And then it turned out to be them. But it did make the obvious choice.
Yeah, they look
If
good.
you look at them, they're like a gang who's
Oh, yeah.
willing to do whatever it takes to take what should be theirs.
I like this new heel faction we're seeing.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a bit. So it starts out, of course, like a regular 6-man tag team match. We got the Elite, Omega, and the Bucks versus Jericho and Santana Ortiz.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, we're not calling them LAX.
Right.
Because-
proud and powerful.
Yeah. So it started out great, you know, with
Yeah.
the match. You're about to see some great athleticism from the Bucks, and then all of a sudden we see Kenny about to do the Rise of Terminator.
Mm-hmm.
Out of nowhere, we just saw Ambrose, or should I say Moxley.
Come on now, Mox.
Moxley showed up and attacked Kenny from behind.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was like one crazy moment right there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and then we see the fight get out all the way to the back.
Mm-hmm.
And he did a DT on Kenny through a glass coffee table.
Mm-hmm.
That was insane.
Oh, yes.
I mean, because there were still people saying that prior to this, that New Japan kind of ruined the storyline between Moxley and Omega. I'm like, I don't feel like they did. It's because you got to remember, we still haven't seen any televised shows from them just yet.
Right.
Because the only way that could have happened if they, story-wise, once they have a TV show. And now they have the opportunity to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but we are going to see those two face off at Full Gear.
Most definitely. What's your thoughts on Pac and Hangman?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that match.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say it was like, okay, I was excited for it because, how do I say this? It didn't go well when it was supposed to be a double or nothing, you know?
Right.
But seeing this, I was like, okay, I'm kind of sold to it at 1st.
Mhm.
And I'm like thinking, okay, I see some great back and forth between Pac and Hangman, you know, and I just didn't know what to expect.
Yeah. I like the match, but I feel like I have to watch it again because there was like some spots that I probably might or might not have missed. But I liked it.
And not to mention, Pac is undefeated right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know who of the commentaries saying this. He said that he could be in line for a championship match.
Yes.
So we just gotta wait and see when we get there. But let's go back to the 6-man.
Mm-hmm.
As we all saw, it was a numbers game on the whole thing. So it was surprise, Jericho and Ortiz and Santana won the match.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it was still giving them the beatdown. And here comes Cody saving the day. And here comes Sammy giving them the low blow. And then here comes Dustin saving the day again. But the biggest shocker was Jake Hager, formerly known as Jack Swagger, making an appearance. Thoughts on that?
Well, he's a must needed asset to AEW, considering that they don't have a big bruiser type guy. I believe the biggest person before Jake was Dustin.
Of course.
So yeah, I think I mentioned to you before earlier this week, when Jake was Jack Swagger in WWE, he kind of got phased out with such a plethora of talent and superstars.
Of course.
That we couldn't really see what he could do. Now that we can see him on a new platform, we're able to see him with a creative. What's the word I'm looking for? He has the freedom to be creative with his character. I'm excited to see what he's going to bring to the table.
Not to mention, I just mentioned this to you earlier.
Yes.
The Ango, or should I call him Tony, from Destination Pro Wrestling, he was telling people that he heard rumors that Jake Hager was going to go to AEW, and 333 people were saying, "Nope, he's not going there." Well, to all you idiots out there who thought that wasn't going to happen,
Naysayers.
you thought wrong. So, you should guys give yourselves a slap in the head for believing that. But we should make this to explain this a little bit. Just because WWE is the number one promotion doesn't mean he's going to go back. Don't forget, there has been issues between certain former WWE talent that disagreed with them. And Jake Hager is one of them. You know. So, try to pretend. So, if you want to pretend that doesn't matter, it does matter, because these are wrestlers who should have been at the top to begin with, and they didn't get that. But I do feel Jake Hager can bring something to the table.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
He's a beast.
of course. And not to mention, I love the post-match interview that Tony Khan mentioned about Jake Hager. He said that he signed them before All Out. This was a secret, and not to mention, Jake kept it very, very quiet. And so did AEW. And I have to say, I give him hands down an applause for keeping that quiet. You know, I'm wondering what other surprises they can give us.
Sky's the limit.
But, of course, we saw the ending that could be the beginning of a stable faction.
Well, not just that, but if you notice on the press conference that Tony had, he accidentally slipped that it's an actual stable, and you could see it in his face when he went.
Yeah, because the thing is, Angle mentioned this before. He said that this is possibly that AEW are taking a page out of New Japan.
Oh, yeah.
Don't forget, New Japan, all their wrestlers are involved in stable factions. You got Bullet Club, we got LIJ, we got Suzuki-gun, Taguchi Japan, Chaos. Am I missing anybody? I think that's it.
That's all of them, I believe.
I think that's all of them. So, but yeah, I mean, I've been a big fan of stable factions for a long time. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing one in AEW. I mean, we already have a stable faction, the Elite. And now we're seeing another stable faction that one is want to conquer AEW.
Well, you got the best friends with the kid with the hands in his pockets.
Well, we don't know yet if they're going to call themselves the best friends. But it will be great.
Still think they should be DRL 2.0.
So, but here's the interesting part. Now, the ratings just came in this past yesterday.
I saw that.
I'm thinking, could this be accurate? Or
it's It's accurate, but the thing is, of course, the brand new show promotion is going to get the more ratings, like right out the gate. Let's see more towards the end. I'm not trying to be cynical because I want AEW to succeed to the fullest. But let's let some
Of course.
go.
Now the ratings of that, it was
1.4.
1.4 million.
Mhm.
Now NXT had somewhere about maybe
800,000.
800 or somewhere between 800,000 or 900.
It's in between
It's
there.
in between there.
Yeah.
I know that could be an embarrassment out of WWE to have that rating. But of course, if you saw this, I don't know if you did, WWE congratulated them.
Of course.
I'm like, maybe people like didn't think it was going to be successful with AEW.
Yeah.
But
Of course.
they got to remember, this is just the first week. Now AEW has to do is step up the game. What they can top this past Wednesday.
Right.
That's all they got to focus on. Now let's talk about NXT. What they just had this past Wednesday. It started out with the NXT Championship.
I think they blew their wad on that one.
I've always wondered this. We've always known, as fans,
Yeah.
championships, especially the top one,
Yeah.
it's always last. But I'm like wondering,
Yeah.
why did you start
Top
it
of
out
the
with
card.
that? Why did you put that at the start of the card?
I think that had a lot to do with them wanting people to watch it live.
Mhm.
Like that would have I mean, I don't know how television works.
No.
But I think my thinking was that they're like, oh shit, here's the main event, well, quote unquote the main event match, starting off the show. They just wanted eyes on the screen, and it didn't exactly work out that way.
And then we see the return of Finn Balor.
Too little, too late on my part.
Well, I can see a different perspective on this. Let's not forget, Finn Balor, he's incredible what he does. I mean, I know ever since he had to relinquish the Universal title, I don't know when was that, people have been wanting to see him to catch another shot of the title or the WWE title. But he never got that opportunity.
Vince ain't having that.
Yeah. But I got to ask myself this question.
Mm-hmm.
Since Triple H is the one running NXT,
Mm-hmm.
what did he have to do to bring him in?
I don't think he had to do much.
But I do see something like on story-wise.
Yeah.
You can see Adam Cole saying he's going to be champion forever.
Mm-hmm.
But there's only one person that was the longest reigning NXT champion. And that's Finn Balor.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I see it is this, like story-wise. If he's proving that he's going to be champion forever, he has to go through one person who we all know is the longest.
Mm-hmm.
And that's Finn Balor. So it's more like, I'm right here, and I'm going to stop you at your heels.
Mm-hmm.
So do you see that as a story-wise right there?
I like that. There's a lot behind it. I mean, you got the daddy of the Bullet Club coming after Undisputed Era.
So yeah, that's a pretty... But I do see that as a story-wise coming in. I mean,
Mhm.
I know you say it looks kind of lame that they brought him in,
Yeah.
but story-wise, it does fit perfectly with it.
All right.
So let's move on with Io Shirai and Mia Yim.
That was a cool match. I think I liked it.
I mean, I have to say this is one of the best matches that Mia Yim has ever been in.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that there were some people say that she didn't have any great matches, but I think this is one of those matches that was one of the good ones.
I think she should work a lot if she's not already doing this. I think she should work a lot closer with Io Shirai and anyone that is that has a Joshi background. She could learn a lot from. She could not necessarily learn a lot, but she like you said, she's getting better as more and more with her matches.
Yeah, and of course, Victor was Io Shirai, as probably we may have predicted it, but it was a good one. I'll give this one a pass.
Yeah.
And then we'll go with Johnny Gargano versus Shane. What? Shane Thorne.
Some dude. I fast forwarded that.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so in case you're wondering, Johnny won.
Duh.
Now let's move on to the NXT Women's Championship.
I fast forwarded that too because
Now, oh yeah, and here's the thing. I saw this. It was a great match, but many fans saying that they botched this one.
what was the botch?
They should have given the title to Candice LeRae.
Well, that's precisely why I fast forward through it. They're not taking the belt off of Shayna Baszler yet, and I know this, so I don't watch Shayna Baszler matches anymore.
Yeah. Anyway, the guys from Square Circle Cycle Battle said this.
Mm-hmm.
They made an interesting point, and I agree with it. And I hope you can agree that they should have built someone strong enough to take that title. They try to build up more female talent that should be the ones to take out Shayna Baszler. You know.
Well, since we're taking talent from the main roster and moving them to NXT, why not put Asuka against her and take that belt off her?
That would be a great one.
Since they're not doing much with Asuka in SmackDown except putting her in a tag team match.
Yeah, and then we got Pete Dunne versus Danny Burch. I think that's his name.
Danny Burch.
Yeah, it was an okay match.
I liked it. I liked it because I'm kind of biased. I like British strong style, so I actually watched that whole match, and I'm a Pete Dunne fan. You know.
Yeah, and then after the match, when Pete Dunne actually got the victory, we just saw who attacked him.
It was
Damian Priest, formerly known as Punishment Martinez. I mean, that was interesting to see.
I liked that whole segment. Like I was like, I kind of popped for that. Then he did the little.
I don't know if they got that from El Fantasma. He did something like that, but without the screen, as King Cuerno at Lucha Underground.
Oh, okay.
Because he did that. You see, the way he does it, when he's about to jump, he pulls out the arrow and he fires. He runs one side and then he runs back and then he goes through the ring.
Oh.
So I don't know if the idea was like, okay, shoot the arrow, his name pops up. You know, that's a pretty good thing to watch. Now the final match was the tag team championship. The Undisputed Era, Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly versus Street Profit.
I watched it and I liked it. I wanted to see the Street Profits get over, but I think they want to stick with Undisputed Era controlling all the belts. So that made sense.
Yeah. So it was like, okay, like any stable faction, they actually keep all the titles. But once we saw that the O'Reilly and Fish won, and here comes the leader, and man who prophesized that they were going to have all the gold, he's happy that they continue to hold the titles. Out of nowhere, we see the return of Tommaso Ciampa.
The heel of heels.
And not to mention, here's the thing. I don't know if you noticed, Ciampa's not looking at Cole.
No.
He was looking at what he was holding.
Oh, yeah.
He liked to call it Goldie.
Yeah, that's his.
So.
Like, he really believes that belongs to him.
Oh, yeah. So
he didn't really lose it, didn't he? He got injured.
Yeah, he had to relinquish it. Yeah. He was completely injured. I think that was when Johnny Gargano won that title. So we'll just see what's going to happen, because I know there's two wrestlers that want their hands on that title.
I hope they don't do the lazy thing and make it a three-way, because no one gets over in a three-way.
All right. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is a few things. Right now, since we're seeing NWA, I got more information that came out. We can actually see NWA on YouTube, like MLW. So they will premiere their new show called Power.
Yes.
This coming Tuesday on YouTube.
Okay.
They said it starts at 6:05 Eastern or Central, somewhere around there. That
Most
should
likely
be
Eastern.
Should be maybe 3:00 Pacific time.
Yes.
Our time. So I'm excited to see that, because I know I'm always interested to see other promotions and all this other stuff. And of course, I'll be going tomorrow to Baja Stars USA,
Nice.
and Puma King is going to be there, and Danny Limelight. I forgot who else, but I'll show some clips for that on the upcoming episode on that. That's going to be interesting. And I know I'll be keeping more updates with MLW. Oh, not to mention, before we go, it's now happening with MLW.
The women's division.
Exactly. This is something that many fans have been asking for, and now it's happening. And they just signed Zeta Zhang. If you guys don't know who she is, she's participated in the Mae Young Classic. So I'm excited to see this. She's the first signee by them. I'm just wondering who else they're going to sign, because I know there have been women that got signed with other promotions. So we'll keep more updates on what's happening, and then we'll give out what's going to happen with AEW and NXT. So on behalf of J-Rod and Nico, we must bid all of you adieu, so goodbye. Mwah. And have a nice day.